everyone. I'm Sandy Anastasi with Infinite Chat, and this is the Psychic Hour. Welcome. In the studio with me today, I have the world-famous psychic medium, Johathan Louis. And Johathan and I are kind of old friends, which I'm sure you can see. So I'm going to tease him, if you folks don't mind, as we go through today's session, just because some people are just so teasable that you just can't resist.
Yeah, well.
But I won't let any of your audiences tease you, though, Johathan.
That's all right. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Sandy.
It is really, really good to see you again.
You too. It's been a little while. It's been a little while. So.
Yeah. Well, we talk, but it's been actually a couple of years since I've been in the area at the same time you were.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've been doing lots and lots and lots of work, and I want to give the audience, because you have a worldwide audience, I want to give the audience a look at a personal side of you that they probably don't see when you're out there on stage and you're doing these readings that are so incredibly impressive. And by the way, I tell that you were in here on the 25th doing
Medium Mondays.
Yeah, Medium Mondays, and that you just rocked.
Well, thank you.
When are you going to be back with Medium Mondays?
As soon as I get a phone call from Infinite Quest. I mean, it's so cool because there's so many people that are doing it now, and it's great.
Yeah.
And we just go through the rotation. So.
Well, you're just going to have to be the fill-in person and just hold the fort and be here, because it works. It's phenomenal.
I absolutely enjoy it.
Yeah. The world knows you as a psychic medium.
Right.
But like all psychic mediums, you didn't start out there. Can you tell me and everyone who's watching how you got started in your journey to become a professional psychic and then a professional medium?
Well, it's funny. I always talk about things that'll happen when you're a kid, or things that'll go on in your life that you don't recognize as being anything regarding psychic work at all. But when I got into the work, much later in life, and most people know that I really didn't dwell on this until I was about 30 years old. I was about 30, 31 years old before I even got introduced into this work, which is kind of late, although I hear a lot of people get into it.
I don't think it's late at all.
Yeah, it was good timing, because I think you have certain life experiences you have to go through in order to be able to use that in the work as well. Mm-hmm. But when I look back, there were a lot of things that I was dealing with as a kid that I look back now and my guides will show me, like, oh, that was a psychic experience. That was a psychic experience. And I think a lot of people have them. They just don't recognize what it is.
Yeah.
So to say when I first got into it, I couldn't tell you when I first got into it. I know it was introduced to me in a more profound way, probably about 1997 when I met John Edward.
Yeah.
And he kind of helped put me on my path.
Yeah. Well, I think you and he being friends first, and then you really did become, and I think still are, his protege.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you feel about being the protege to probably the most famous psychic medium in the whole world?
Well, I don't mind it. I don't mind it, I have to say, his input and his help and his guidance, along with yours. I mean, we were just talking before we came on today about how we were, taking classes with you. John and I would come down and take a class from you, and so many more things would happen. By the way, if you take a class with Sandy, expect a lot more to happen than just the class. But it was eye-opening. It was an amazing experience, putting me on my path, shifting everything in my life in a really big way.
Let's get back for a minute to those early beginnings.
Yeah.
Before you knew you were ever going to be a professional psychic, when you did some other job, whatever it was,
right.
How did you see your psychic abilities on a day-to-day basis helping you and helping you to move through life in a more positive way?
Yeah, I used to think I was smart, and then I realized I was stupid getting a lot of help. That's the best line I could give you, because it's really true. So many things that were happening. I was in the building line my whole life, ever since I was a kid. And things would happen a certain way, and I would see things differently. I would say, let's try it that way. And everybody would go, that's not going to work. I'm like, no, I think it's going to work. And it would. And they're like, wow, you're really good at this. I'm like, yeah, I know, thanks. Awesome. But they showed me later on in life, that wasn't you.
Yeah.
That wasn't all you. Don't take the credit for it. You got help.
That is
And I got
amazing.
a lot of help growing up.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, I didn't recognize it till later on.
Right.
When I started to get more involved with the work, and then look back and say,
right.
Oh, that's what that was. Which I think a lot of people experience.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm asking, because I know that a lot of our viewers, a lot of the people watching us right now, are people who are like you were back then. They're having these psychic experiences that many of them don't even realize are unusual, that they're out of the ordinary, that they are psychic experiences. I think we have so many people in our society who are using their psychic ability in a bigger and bigger way, but in their everyday life.
Right.
And some of them recognize they're using it, some of them just do it, but all of them, I think, are being benefited by it enormously.
Right.
You know,
I think the
knowing
difference
which direction to put a door on,
yeah,
or
the only
something
difference
like that.
is we can recognize now what it is.
Yeah.
And know that it's coming from a certain place. Some people call, you know, you always hear common sense. The word
Yeah.
common sense gets thrown
Yeah.
around like it's nothing.
Right.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I don't believe in common sense. You know, so many people, like even in the building line when I was in, there would be people that do certain things for a living, and they'd be phenomenal at it, but they were good at it before they even got started.
Right. Yes.
You know, it's like that guy, what a carpenter he was. Oh, this plumber, he was just
now,
unbelievable.
why do you think that would be?
I think that at some point they either experienced that in another lifetime,
Yeah, I was thinking the same
you know,
thing.
and then when they came into this life, they got automatically drawn to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then because they already had experience,
Okay,
They already
thank
had-
you, Leah.
they already had experience in it, so it kind of like they kind of carried on where they left off.
Very, very interesting. And something that I think is the case is that right now people are getting more in touch with their psychic abilities. So even the average person that you're meeting packing groceries in the supermarket or whatever, all of these people are beginning to be more aware. And my personal feeling is that as we become more psychically tuned in, that we also begin to regain a lot of talents and abilities that we may have had from other lifetimes that can now come through.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Hands down, I agree with that.
So you're right now tapping into one of those abilities from another lifetime.
Right, because it,
Yep.
it happened quickly for me. You know that. It just, and I'm not
Yes.
taking the credit for it. It just happened fast. It was on
Yeah.
the fast track.
What happened with you, and now I realize that you really were John Edwards' student, okay? So I can't say this from a direct interaction, but I can relate it to many of my own students. And I think what happened is that all you really needed was to be reminded.
Mhm.
So what had to happen is the blocks, the resistance to who you are had to be removed so that you could recognize what was there all along.
Right.
And I see that every single day with students that I'm teaching.
They showed it to me one time as like a meteorite coming down to the
Mhm.
earth, right? And then it hits an object and gets put on a different direction.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's almost like you got to find your way back to where you were supposed to be.
Yes.
You know, and that's how I feel things happen for me, you
Yeah.
know. And it's I get this feeling of like a locket, like a click.
Yes.
So everything's clicking for me now.
Right.
It feels right now, you know.
Yeah.
So many people go through life and they're trying to figure out, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know if this feels right for me. Or hey, I really like that.
Yeah.
You really like it? Go for it.
And you know, I think for you, you said you felt you'd come to it late. I think you came to it right on time. Because if you hadn't been in your early 30s when these doorways opened, you wouldn't have had all of that prior life experience
Exactly.
to be able to build on. That gives you a lot of insight into the everyday world and everyday life that the people you encounter on a daily basis deal with. Because, oh, please forgive me for saying this, because you really aren't just a psychic medium. You're a psychic. And to me, that's really where it's at, because of course that's what I am and that's what I teach.
But of course.
And you know, when I teach my classes, I tell people there is a progression. First, students start out learning to develop their psychic abilities and become a psychic, where they're tuned in to thoughts, feelings, what's going on in the world around them. Then they begin to open a channel to the other side and connect with guides, and at that point they're able, and their own higher self, at that point they're able to start being able to see future events. And along the line, they are also becoming aware that some of those guides are people who've passed. And at that point, you have the decision, the choice, to be able to proceed into becoming a psychic medium where you are actually talking to all those people who've passed, or whether you want to merely stay, like I have, stayed a psychic channel, which allows you to connect with the guides and to still stay on track with the future events. You do both.
Yes.
So today, you're going to join me in doing psychic readings, where Jonathan's going to be giving insight and information, as I am, into where the future is going for all of you folks who are going to be calling in. And as always, please, if you have a comment, if you have a specific question for Jonathan about how he came to this point in his life, or anything about how he feels about being a world-famous psychic and psychic medium, ask, because we can put him on the spot right now. Isn't that great? I believe our first caller is Cynthia from Illinois. Do I have your name right, Cynthia? Oh, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, are you on? Are you with us?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I was getting a little bit of an echo here. Elizabeth,
Okay.
welcome. It is a delight to have you on. Do you have a question for me or for John? Do you have a comment you'd like to make about what we're speaking about here today?
I don't. I find it all very interesting, but I'm just going to let you guys do your thing.
Okay. Well, you know what Jonathan and I was speaking about earlier? We both have our cards here.
Yes, different types too.
And we use different kinds of cards. So you're going to see two totally different looks here. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a look at where your future's going according to my guides. And look at that, I dropped a card out as I was shuffling. And I don't know if the camera can get this. It is the Magician, and he is inverted. I read the cards right side up and inverted. And the deck I'm using is called the Rider-Waite deck. Now, for me to drop that card as I'm shuffling relative to you says that card's important in your life right now. And what that card means is that you are very creative, you're very artistic, you have a lot of administrative skills, you're a great organizer, and right now, for whatever reason, you're feeling kind of like you're blocked. Okay? So you're feeling like, how do I let that energy out of that bottle? How do I make it happen? And what's interesting is that you do know where you want to go. Now, that information my guides are giving me. You know where you want to go. You know what you want to manifest in your life. You know what you want to make happen, but you don't really quite know how to get from here to there. Okay?
Right.
And I'm going to ask Jonathan to take it over and see if he can't fill in some of those details for you.
Well, it's interesting. While you were doing that, I was shuffling as well, right? And I pulled out three different cards. I use a Spanish deck. It's a regular deck of Spanish playing cards. That's all they are. But each card has a special meaning for me and an interpretation that I have to each one of them.
Can we see what they look like?
Yeah, this is basically a Bastones card, which is the 5 of Bastones, okay? And this card here is the 6 of Pentacles, which is basically just a regular playing card in the Spanish deck, and this is the 7 of Bastones. So what this is showing me is, this basically means misery. In all shapes or form of the word. It means that right now you're dealing with a misery type of feeling connected to you in the present time, what's going on in your life, and you're not liking, again, where you are and what's going on around you. This for me means bad influence, 5 of Bastones, which means to me that the people around you are not necessarily the best influence for what you need to do moving forward. I feel like you need to listen more to what is coming through for you as opposed to listening to other people give you advice. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Would you ask people about certain things connected to your life as opposed to listening to what you feel inside?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain need for, acceptance in the way that you're going or the way that you're thinking. You kind of want somebody's approval. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's what they're making me feel, that you need...
Instead of following my gut.
Correct. Your gut feeling for me feels like the thing that you should be following, and I feel more like you're following what other people are doing or how they perceive things to be as, socially acceptable or whatever it is connected to you. Is there a healthcare reference around you?
Are there what?
Healthcare? What would be the health?
Yes. I have 2 sisters and my mom. They're all in healthcare.
They're all in healthcare. Okay. So that information for me is just backing up what I'm saying to you. That's all that's for, okay? Doesn't mean you need to go into healthcare, so don't worry. But
she's in it already.
But yeah, right, that's true. But they're showing me like not listening to the advice you're getting from other people. Listen to more what feels right for you, okay?
Okay.